All right, so I'm going to give you some free life advice so you don't have to go through the absolute hell that I have been going through over the past several months. And this is especially important if you are of a certain age and your parents are getting older, and if you know there's a high probability that at some point they're probably going to need long-term care. Because you see, that's what happened to my mom. She had an accident on May 10th. She was found unresponsive in her home. She spent like 90 days in the hospital, finally got transferred to a skilled nursing facility, and then we thought we were going to have 100 days with Medicare, but no. They don't tell you that nobody actually gets 100 days with Medicare, even though they say they're going to cover 100 days. No. So we had to do a quick figure shit out on the fly and hire legal help, and it has now cost us literally $18,000 total to get everything done. And if we would have done a lot of this in advance, it would have been a lot simpler of a process. So the first thing you need to know that Medicare only covers up to 100 days in a nursing facility. They do not cover long-term care, and in fact, no insurance practically covers long-term care. So basically, everybody has to either be independently wealthy, where they can just afford the $10,000 to $15,000 a month for long-term care, or they have to be in absolute poverty, where they don't have any money and they can easily qualify for Medicaid. But if you're in that middle group, you're fucked and you're going to need help. And you have to do all these kind of workarounds, and you have to do this thing called a spin down and start a qualified income trust and everything else. So like the middle, like you actually did the right things and you have a decent retirement and all that. Yeah, that's how you get screwed, because my mom, when we started this whole process, had about $65,000 in her bank accounts. And yeah, we've had to go through so much bullshit to do a spin down and do things to protect your assets and all this other shit. And it's been insane. But the actual Medicaid application requires so much stuff that most people just don't have lying around. So some tips you can use now to help prepare for that. First and foremost, do all the planning now. Like, get with a lawyer. There are free resources out there. You need an actual good power of attorney, durable power of attorney, healthcare surrogates, end of life planning stuff, like have a living will, a last will, all the things. Like there was probably, I don't know, like 10 different documents that were all needed to be set up so that we could manage her care while she was first unconscious, and then once she was even conscious, that but not really able to make big brain decisions. So we've had to go through all this bullshit. So do the things now. And to make things even easier, get on your parents' bank accounts. Have them already have you listed, even just as another member on the account or as a power of attorney on the account. Do that now, because all of these things, especially if you're dealing with big banks like I've been dealing with Wells Fargo, I have literally spent, I cannot even begin to count the number of hours, both at the local branch, on the phone, on tech support, on things like trying to get all this shit done, because Medicaid requires 5 years of bank records, and that's all bank records, checking, savings, and then if they have any stocks, bonds, retirement plans, you name it, they have to have it, as well as their annual award letter from Social Security, the Veterans Administration, etc. All of those things, if you don't have the login and password and everything, and even if you do, it can still be a pain in the ass to even get into those accounts, because they all have security measures where, like two-factor authentication. So if you don't have access to their phone and you're not on there, good freaking luck trying to get all this stuff. So get all this shit done now, like long before you even have, because again, 5 years of records. So if they get bank statements, have them keep 5 years of records, and just like 5 to 7 years. Don't go part of my nightmare process of this, I had to go through literally 8 giant boxes of records that we found at her house because nothing was organized, and scanned everything in and then searched it was the easiest way for us to do this because it was chaos. And Nothing was filed in the way it should have been. The next big thing, if somebody dies, remove them from all accounts immediately. My God, do that. So part of the fun that I've had to deal with all this bullshit, is my dad died 10 years ago, my grandfather died 8 years ago, and my grandmother died in 2021. Did my mom remove any of them from any accounts, utilities, anything? No, no, no. I think there was like maybe one or two things that she had actually removed them from. Everybody else, no. So imagine my surprise when I go to the bank and I'm trying to get bank records and they're like, okay, we got it's been the 7 to 14 business days and we've authorized your power of attorney so you can access the account, but we need all of the account holders here in order for you to make any changes or request any records. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, well, there's my dad's name on this account. So then I had to go through that whole process to get him removed from everything, etc., etc. Rinse and repeat for so many things. Also, if you are a parent and you're thinking you're going to do a nice thing and leave your kids stocks and bonds and other assets, for the love of God, use one broker and one financial institution. My grandmother, I love her. She left my mom a considerable amount of different assets and things, except for she freaking used multiple brokers and multiple different accounts and everything. That just made everything so much more difficult because I had to have a paper trail and documentation for everything that my mom was left in her inheritance, and it was scattered to the wind. So now instead of having to deal with one broker and one bank, I've got multiple banks, multiple brokers, multiple accounts, multiplying everything to infinity and beyond. And last but not least, I'm going to say get some help, get some friends, and if you know a local notary, go ahead and get that handy too, because you're going to end up needing witnesses and notaries for basically everything you have to do. Thank God I have wonderful neighbors, because of course none of your witnesses can be related to you, neither can the notary, etc. Like so many things that we had to like last minute get notarized, and ended up paying out the ass for notaries to come to hospital rooms and things like that. So a little bit of preparing now, it is a pain in the ass, but like I had done what I thought was going to be best. I used one of those like free templates that I got online for a power of attorney so I could at least do and make some decisions. But that is not good enough for if you're trying to deal with applying for federal benefits like Medicaid, or having to deal with property, like we're having to sell my mom's house and do all the stuff. And those standard free templates, they're not going to cut it. They won't even talk to you. I tried, and the banks laughed at me, and the realtor was like, yeah, that's not going to cut it, etc. So that was part of what we had to do, was have a lawyer come up with this. And the like power of attorney that she did is like 27 pages long, and the health surrogate information, because we've got it divided up. So I'm handling all of mom's accounts and financial stuff, and my brother, who's a nurse, is making all the medical decisions. But that just added another layer of complication. So the biggest lesson here is do it now, and go ahead and have them start saving, even if it's a digital copy, copies of all bank records going back 7 years, just because they'll need it if they have to do taxes. You're supposed to keep them for 7 years, but they have to have a minimum of 5 years back for all bank accounts and all other things. And you're going to need copies of all the other stuff: driver's license, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates. Like there's a whole list you can search online of all the documentation you need to apply for Medicaid, and it is insane. And then if you have the time, go ahead and familiarize yourself with like the differences between different Medicares, Medicaids, because there's two different Medicaids, one that just covers the long-term care and one that covers everything else is more traditional. Which path is the right way for you? There's also things like learning about qualified income trusts and personal service contracts and all this stuff, and the proper way to document everything. It all said and done, I have nearly 8 gigabytes of scanned documents for my mom's estate. It's crazy.